Hey, Heyoka, what up? Hope everybody's having an awesome day. Alright, so we'll let some people get on. Man, it's a beautiful evening this evening. I'm at the park right now with my kids. What's everybody else up to? What are you guys doing? Alright. Alright, cool. What up, Ryan? How you doing, brother? What up, Lee? Sweet. Cool, it's funny, the first, the two Masons of the group jump on first. Sweet. Alright, Lee. That should work right there. What up, Brandy? How are you doing today? Lead to the camera. What up, Adrian? Oh, look at this big dog right here.
I do like Rusty.
Just get the eyes in. That's all you need.
Yeah, just get the evil part.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm not good at this though.
It's okay, man. I don't think any of us are. We're still learning.
Can you see anything else except pictures of yourself?
No, I see you.
I see you and me. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's all we need, man. We got, if you look at the top, there's some pictures of people who are on. And then if you look at the bottom, there should be comments and stuff. So that way we can read through comments as we're going and as we're talking.
I'm not doing something right because it's just pictures. I don't have anything else going on.
If you hit at the bottom, if you hit the little scroll up at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to pop up with comments. That way you can put something in there if you want to.
It's on quiet mode. Hold on a second.
Yeah, we don't want...
Oh, there we go. There we go there. Okay, cool. That's pretty interesting. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's fun, man. I like doing these, man, because I like seeing people's commentary, too. It's funny, like, some of the reactions you get from people. And, you know, people get to ask questions. And, you know, it's...
Yeah, a lot of it, you look at it later, it's out of context sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. No, that's why you have to go in and watch it after that. Or none of it will make any sense. You have to go look at it.
Right.
So how's your day going, man?
Been long and hot.
You been outside?
Oh.
Oh.
About drinking one of these. Yeah, I've been putting a bed together, man. These days you can't even buy a bed. You have to like put the thing together. They kind of like a Lego kit or something, you know.
Oh, those fold out ones, like it gets delivered to your door and it folds out.
I ordered a box spring.
Ah.
And it came in a cardboard box about 4 feet long and about 10 inches square at the ends, and I had to bolt it all together.
A whole box spring? Oh shit! I didn't know they made you do that.
I bought it from Walmart, and everything I had came in kits.
Oh,
that
wow!
You had to put together. Yeah, so I was like, what the
hell? So that's been
made out of steel too. Everybody's so fat these days; they have to have steel box spring, I
guess. That's funny. That's shit. That's funny. Yeah, you know it's funny.
Go ahead.
My grandfather just bought something from Amazon, and he's been working on it all day today. Some kind of marble stand, and it's been like a 6-hour project, man. Some of these things, man, putting together are just pain in the ass.
I'm getting better at this. So, what are we doing today? You asking me questions and stuff?
Oh yeah, dude. I want to talk to you about first. I just want to talk to you about your book. So I got your book. I've been reading it, The Recovering Bigot. Where can people get it if they wanted to look at it?
Well, right now I've got two. I'll use you guys help, and I'll give you a free copy or 2 free copies. Actually, my layout guy right now has sent me 2 EPUB versions, and one's layout friendly and one's device friendly, and I'm not sure which one to go with. And so I can I can put them in a Dropbox file, and anybody that wants them can go and look them up, or I can give them the actual file if they want that.
Sweet. All right, cool, man. Well, I want to give you some props real quick while we're on here, because I read your transformation and your story, and dude, it's just amazing. Like, you kind of see, like, through your story, like, different generation transitions. So it's not even like your personal one. It's like you kind of see the different mindsets of the different generations when it comes to bigotry and stuff. So I thought that was really cool, man. It's like kind of a worldview. Even though it's your perspective, it's kind of like a worldview on everything. So I thought that was really
Well,
nice.
you know Andy Marcinkowska.
Yeah, yeah,
He was helping me publish this thing in the beginning, and he wanted me to put my face on. I said, "What do we need to put on the cover?" And he said, "Well, you need to like put your face on the cover. You're like a close up, all like contemplative or whatever." And I'm like, "Nah, dude, you don't get it. It's not about me. It's about the process, and all I can do to learn and teach myself is through stories." And so that's kind of what I did, and so that's one of the reasons I wrote it under a pseudonym, and also that I kind of obscured my face just a little bit. It wasn't because I was worried about somebody tagging me as being the bigot or anything. It's really because it wasn't about me so much as it was just this guy, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And since my parents were born in the 30s, my parents were old enough to be my grandparents, and so I was raised a little bit differently and stuff. And so just just weird. So yeah, I appreciate you appreciating it. Thanks.
No problem, man. And what so just to dive into that a little bit, like, what inspired you to, like, write that and, like, just put it all on paper and get it out to people? Like, where was that source of inspiration?
Um, well, I don't want to sound grandiose by saying this at all, but Rex Hutchins, the guy with the Scottish Rite, he had a similar process in the way he wrote Bridge to Light. It's a book you get whenever you're initiated into the Scottish Rite. You can buy it off of Amazon. But what it was was his notes going through each of the degrees of the Scottish Rite on his own personal notes of transformation and knowledge and study. And so what happened with me was, a lot of the stuff we do out in our life is we want to journal. People want us to journal. I hate it myself, but
Yeah.
when I do journal, I journal in bursts. Just I'm like a impulse journaler. Binge journaler, let's say. And so I would have thoughts and write them down about different things I was going throughout my life, and a lot of it stemmed from growing up in a Southern Baptist religion and having that to recover from. And then I've been to book burnings. I've been to book burnings and album burnings and comic book burnings just less than a mile from where I live right now at a church.
Damn.
Yeah. So consequently, I never got many comic books and stuff like that. So all the guys I play Dungeons and Dragons with, they're always talking about comic books and stuff, and I really don't know. I had to watch kung fu movies. That was my fantasy world, was kung fu movies and stuff. So
Man, that's crazy that you witnessed stuff like that, man. And to
yeah,
see what
I participated in it. Hell, I burned my own shit.
That's fucking wild, man. To think of where we're at now in comparison to not even that long ago, because that really wasn't that long ago that people were doing that, right?
Yeah. You're talking about in the '80s, so about 30 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, man, that's crazy. And then what got you?
Didn't Go ahead.
What got you into Freemasonry and stuff? Like, what kind of led you down that path? Because I know Southern Baptist is
Um,
kind of against Masonry in some aspects, right?
well, actually, when I left the Southern Baptist Church, I had already joined Masonry, and in 1990, I joined Masonry in 1992. I'm 50 years old this year. And in November, I'll be a Mason of 26 years. And in '92, when I joined, I was told, "Oh, Masonry is real racist," and I didn't understand even what racist was at that point. And uh, but in Beaumont in around 1994, the Southern Baptist Convention met, and that's who. When you belong to that convention, you have to follow their creed, and there's certain things you do and won't do in your church. And let's say I know a church my church fell apart because the preacher wanted to start questioning people after they'd been divorced before he would remarry them. Hold on a second. I think I'm running low on power. That sucker really drains it down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Cool. All right, so this should be working. Okay, so they voted that year in '92 or whatever out in Beaumont whether or not they would kick Masons out of the Southern Baptist churches. And at that convention, there was a doctor named Holly, and Dr. Holly still exists. I saw a guy not too long ago that had met him and done business with him. But Dr. Holly's written 2 books against Masonry, talking about all its satanic origins and all this crap, you know. And he hired a guy named Gary Liazor, and Gary Liazor went and studied it, and he wanted Gary to find out all the evil stuff about Freemasonry. And instead, Liazor went back to him and said, I really can't find any of this crap you're talking about. They're kind of cool guys, you know. And so he fired him, and then Liazor became a Mason, like not too long
Oh,
after
that's
that.
funny.
Yeah, actually, he came to speak at the Scottish Rite when about 4 years ago or so. And
Oh,
so
that's
anyway,
hilarious.
so they voted on that deal, and they would have at that time lost about 800 deacons and almost 200 preachers in the Southern Baptist Convention, which is not just Texas, that's the whole United States. And so so it wasn't like an immense amount of people, but it was significant to that religion. Excuse me. And so that was one of the things that made me leave the church, let's say. Now, my mother died when I was about 33, and I never strayed too far from those fundamentalist Bible-thumping beliefs until after she was dead. How I joined Freemasonry was I was bored. I was out of college. I'd been through a dope rehab for cocaine, and was living at home. And my mom was like, you need to do something with your life. Sierra Club, whatever the hell, you need to do something, you know, to find something. And she said, you know, Keith's a Mason. And so my aunt's husband was a Mason. Now, that was when I was 23. When I was 13, I had another uncle die that my dad, it was my dad's brother. I'd never met this man. And I was at his funeral, and there's a little, you know, the square and compasses were on the corners of the caskets. And then they come up with these aprons and the regalia and the collars
Yeah.
and swords and gloves and all this crap. And I've never seen anything like it in my life. And in my defense, the square and compass does kind of look like a Union emblem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I looked at it and I was like, ah, what the hell's going on? And so I asked my mom. I said, Mom, what's going on? And she says, son, he was a Mason. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot of hoopla over a bricklayer, you know. I've heard these unions were tight, you know, but damn, that's tight, man. These unions really take care of you, you know. And so help me God, it was 10 years before I knew any different. I just thought that it was just like a union. I didn't know anything different. And so, bricklayers. And so when I found out my Uncle Keith, this other guy that I knew a lot better, I knew him. I didn't know the other guy. And he was a Shriner.
Oh,
And so
shit.
my mom's like, Shriner. And at that point, I had been working with children, and I'd gotten a counseling license. They called it LCDC. And that's really just a way to bill insurance companies. You can't bill an insurance company for sobered up dope fiend. You
I see.
can't bill an insurance company for sober alcoholic. And that's all counselors really are. And that's all they really come from. Or they're recovering from something else. If not that, they're recovering from some other type of mental issue or social instability, let's say. And so at least that's been my experience. I don't want to talk bad about anybody. You know, if you're crazy and you don't know it yet, that's okay. But I had worked with children and all this, you know, and so it's interesting that one of the questions on the on your Masonic Investigation Committee form that when they come and they ask you these questions, it's interesting to me that one of the questions is, why do you want to be a Mason? Because when they came to my house and asked me, I had no damn idea. I really didn't. And it was the oddest question to me. And I looked at him and I said, well, I don't know. I said something like, you know, I worked with kids, you know, you know, I don't know how many men friends, you know, I need some friends, and, you know, and it seems like the next right thing to do. And that's still the answer I'll give you. It's just why I joined. I didn't have a damn clue. And when I got into the Golden Dawn studies, I didn't go into Golden Dawn studies by reading a book about Golden Dawn or asking anybody about the Golden Dawn. I said, I want to study this Kabbalah thing because the word just grabs me, you
Yep.
know? And so I was in a group at the Scottish Rite, and it was we still have it every first Monday of the month for the initiated. And we go over each degree each month, and in that class we were talking about it because the Kabbalah is introduced in the fourth degree of the Scottish Rite, and Clint said something like, "Well, there's these two orders, blah blah and blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay." I didn't look into them, didn't know what I was getting into. If you'd have told me I'd been dressing like an Egyptian and flapping my arms around and doing all that shit, I would have had no fucking clue, man. No clue whatsoever. That's not the way. That's not the way I've lived my life, man. I've lived my life like that damn kung fu guy. See, that's the thing is I read all these things. When I was about 19, I was working nights in a mental hospital, and I met a guy that was what they called back in those days a doctor of Oriental medicine. He was an acupuncturist, and he had been in martial arts most of his life. And I don't know, I was reading a book one day, and it was just a book about Chinese philosophies and stuff and kung fu and all this. And there was a story about this young master walking down the road, and he comes upon this old master walking down the road. And I guess he'd be walking up the road. But anyway, he has, the old man has 3 bottles of water. And the young cat's like, you know, can I have one? The old man says, sure. And he gives him a bottle of water. And he's sitting there drinking the water. And the whole time that he's drinking the water, he's looking at the old man thinking, how can I get another bottle of water out of this old man? And the old master's looking at him. And the whole time the guy's drinking the bottle of water, the old man's saying, why has this young man crossed my path? And I found that to be just so damn profound that it stuck with me since I was 19 years old. And it's just been one of those guiding principles in my life that I didn't go screaming to God why most of the time, you know. But when my wife was dying, I mean, she didn't die, by the way, but when she was really, really ill and in a coma and all this stuff, you know, I didn't scream at the top of my lungs why too much, maybe a couple of times. I was mostly worried about my selfish ass self, wondering what the fuck I was going to do, you know, for at least the first 24 hours, you know. And after that, you start sinking into the reality of the situation, you know. But most of the time I ask God, like, well, what the fuck do I need to learn from this shit?
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly the way I feel about it, you know. And so I feel like there's something out there to learn from all these different situations, and so I don't go investigating them too much. I'm not recommending that somebody else do this, but then if you've got me on here expecting something typical, then we're off base right away.
No, that's perfect, man. And that's exactly what happened to me too. So like for me, I never really cared to get into masonry at all. I never really thought about I was going to do my own studies. You know, when you're just really arrogant and you're like, you know what, I don't need no teacher. I'll figure it all out. And I was kind of in that mindset. And then finally I hit some kind of roadblock to where I needed some kind of teacher, something. And the moment I sat back and I started admitting I needed a teacher, I think that was like the big one. I started admitting it. Boom. I found out my wife's grandfather was a Mason. My great grandfather was a Mason. And they're going to get me into the society. They're going to let me check it out. And it was just kind of weird path. Like once you just say, okay, I really want to learn this next step, or I really want to know what my path is. Boom. It kind of carves a way for you. You kind of get out of your own fucking way. And I think that was the big thing for me. And
Well, I hope I'm going to tell you something, and I'm only going to use this word one time, and I'm only going to use it in context of the way it was used to me. But I want to establish a baseline for my Masonic career, let's say, okay? And like I told you, when I first joined Masonry in 1992, I was told that it was a very racist organization, and that this friend of mine said I couldn't be a part of that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? No, there's black Masons too. They got their own little place, and it's all separate but equal, and blah blah blah. And they don't want to be a part of us any more than they want to be a part of them. And that is true in a large segment of the population in both lodges. And but you know, as you know now, we are visiting and we are recognizing each other, and I always did. I never had an issue with that. What a bigot has an issue with is he tries to delineate differences between levels of bigotry by saying that, oh, I'm just prejudiced, I'm not racist. Racist. If I was racist, I'd want to wipe them off the fucking map. I don't want to wipe them off the map. I just can't stand being around them, or they just irritate the fuck out of me, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? so there's a delineation, and then another one you'll see our buddy Kevin doing is Kevin will come up, and a lot of you people don't know Kevin, but you probably do. Is Kevin's one of the guys that'll just walk up to you and say, "How do you like Jew jokes?" You know what I'm saying? And you just start off with them, and just go right off. And Sebastian had to tell him like, "No,"
Oh, so
and it's
he
yeah,
did
yeah,
that
yeah,
in
yeah,
front of
yeah. It was.
Sebastian.
Yeah, he did it to him. He's like, he walks right up to him. He's like, "Hey, how do you like Jew jokes?" But I turned it around on Sebastian not too long ago because I was like, "Well, look, man, you said this and you didn't. You were." He's, "Well, I didn't know it was offensive." I said, "Look, that's because you didn't ask. You didn't go in to find out. I said that guy didn't sit around and try to figure out whether or not you were Jewish. He just walked right up and said, 'Hey, how you like Jew jokes?' Because this guy has the delineation problem of trying to say that there's a difference between ridicule and hate. And that only works on the inside of the bigot's head. As soon as it comes out of his mouth, it's the same shit. It gets the same result. It affects everyone around him the same way because nobody else can put that degree on that of, oh, that's just ridicule.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I had jokes and stuff lined up my entire life. I never thought any of it was hateful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just thought it was being ridiculed and making fun of them, and no more than I'd make fun of you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? On something else. It's just that looking at it from other people's perspectives and looking at it from other people's point of view is how I saw those things happen. But I said all that to say this is that when I joined Masonry, my uncle took me to the lodge. And the lodge that I joined at that time is still one of the most racist lodges in Houston, Texas. And I don't attend there anymore. Jock Demolay gave me my 25-year pin the other day. They're my lodge, And I call them my home lodge. And people are like, "Oh no, your home lodge is where you were made a Mason, where you were raised at." And I'm like, "Well, that's my birth lodge."
Yeah.
That's like you talk about your crackhead birth mama you don't want to claim. That's
Yeah.
her. That's the crackhead birth lodge I don't want to claim. And I say that because the only question they asked me when I joined that lodge, jokingly, they were looking at me kind of grinning. They didn't know my uncle. They knew him through the Ironworkers Union. And so they hand me a petition, and as I'm filling it out, this guy that ended up teaching me all my work, and now he sits in the lodge, amen, Jesus, hallelujah, and all that crap every time everybody says any type of prayer about anything. He's sitting there, and I can still see him standing in front of me while I'm sitting at the table, and he says, "I only got one question for you. Have you ever married a nigger?" And I knew enough to know that it was inappropriate. And like I said, I'm only saying it one time just because it was in complete context. If you understand how it was said to me.
Yeah.
The thing was, I knew how inappropriate it was, but I didn't know how anti-Masonic it was because I was filling out my petition. You know what I mean? And so they would tease saying that their apron was their Klan hood hanging upside down. I knew one old man that actually carried around a Klan petition in his pocket, and he had been in the Klan. He was one of my best friends. I'm not saying I agreed with those things. I'm just saying he was one of my best friends because he was a great guy. He had this super huge character defect, you know what I'm saying, that ran deep and had a lot of history behind it. And so, you talk to guys like that, they'll come up with their own rendition of what the Klan was or what all this is, and it always sounds like you're trying to justify something. So I never really go into that kind of crap.
Yeah.
History's history, whatever. I go back to history. You want to go back to history? Go back where they choked this Mexican boy to death outside of Denny's. About 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever?
Yeah, I remember that.
A brother that you and I both know, a Hispanic brother, has family that lives out there in Crosby, and they don't speak Spanish. All the people out there think they're white. And so after that old boy got choked to death out there, within about 3 to 4 days, I think, I don't want to lie to you, but within a few days, there was a pamphlet laying on everyone's doorstep in Crosby saying, "Hey, join the Klan."
What?
It had phone numbers on it. I still have a picture of it on my phone. I think it's on Facebook where I posted it because my friends at Oxford and overseas were like, "Ellen, they think racism in the United States is like alligators. They think you got to go special places and look hard for it. and they're amazed when they find out it's like stray cats. It's just every fucking where. You know, it's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's just kind of just right under the surface, and we don't really notice it or pay attention to it. And so when I showed her this pamphlet, I sent her a picture of it. The guy in a Klan hood with a phone number in South Carolina or some damn place, and says, "Remember your white roots. Remember this. Blah 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 blah." You know, and it amazed me. You know, it amazed me, but it amazed them even more. It blew their fucking mind.
Yeah.
Because like 2 days before that, Ellen was telling me like, well, I try to let people feel however they want to feel, blah 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 blah. I said, well, yeah, I understand what you mean, but there's this thing you don't understand, and that allowed me to show it to her, to show her this is what we're talking about. It's not. It's like the man, the Muslim brothers in my lodge, they'll go visit over at Aldine where I was raised. And they'll say, oh, man, that guy's great, man. He's super nice. I said, man, he hates your fucking guts.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, dude, I've read to him out of the law book. It says right here, we will not use a man's religion in his determination of whether or not we take him as a Mason. It's out of Anderson's constitutions. And it's ancient. It's one of the landmarks of Freemasonry. It's in the very front of our law book in the Grand Lodge of Texas. And I've seen that fucker point at it with a finger. I still ain't letting a Muslim in my lodge. So the same guy sits in lodge with guys, and they don't have a clue he feels that way. So, NBC is like the most non-credible news agency there is. We could go into it 100. I could tell you about 5 different stories, but I'll tell you this one. They sent a sheik. They get a guy in a sheik's outfit with a big mustache and the sunglasses and everything to a NASCAR race. And they put microphones and cameras on him and all this shit, trying to pick up somebody saying something to him rude at this NASCAR race. Not one of them rednecks said a fucking thing to him. Good, bad, nothing. Okay. People say, oh, well, that's Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
We can put up with any fucking thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
Even your ass. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and especially if you're just visiting. You want to just visit my lodge? Okay, well, we'll put up with your dark complected ass for a day, is what they're saying to themselves.
Yeah.
But don't try to join my lodge. Don't try to be a part of my lodge. And see, that Southern hospitality thing is charming and all that, but it hides the way people really feel and the way they really act.
Yep.
So, last month, they had a law in Belgium, and I'm a Libra, so I can't make decisions. I rule by committee. I admit that shit. So, but I see both sides of things lots of times. So in Belgium, they passed a law, an anti-sexism law, and a dude told a lady cop, "You're not fit for this job, or this job doesn't suit you," because she was a woman. He was ticketed, and he was fined $3,000. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have, well, whatever Belgium dollars are, maybe it's been 10 cents. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was significant, And so it struck me though that it seems like it's creating a dilemma, and the dilemma is that we're telling that guy to shut his stupid mouth, or he's going to get fined for it. So he does this. It's not going to change the way he feels.
Nope.
It's not going to change him. He's not going to change him telling other people of like mind the same shit.
Yep.
All it's going to do is make us unaware of where the pricks are.
Yeah.
And not only that, it drives them underground and creates the conspiracy bullshit that we always are having to answer. It's the yeah, man, if you're not going to let me do it in public, I'm going to do it in secret.
Yep.
And it might start out just a couple guys having drinks or a poker game. But I want to tell you this, almost every Masonic order has been formed that way. Masonry has, and I'm jumping a little bit off the tracks here, but Masonry is bottoms-up management strategy. What do you think's wrong? Now, how do you want to fix it? Okay, you're the chairman of that fucking committee now.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And so the commandery was formed to have a place for all the Bible thumpers to run to. The shrine was formed to give all the drunks something to do instead of just being drunk and running the cars into each other. All these things were formed from a necessity within. So if you ask me what Masonry is, it's like an onion, but all the layers change depending on the need of whatever the hell recipe you're playing with. I guess what's some fucked up metaphor,
So you
but
always you get what you want though. Like in the end, like when you get into masonry, it's so broad that you're gonna be put into whatever you're searching for. They got a
I've
little place for
I,
you.
I've known men that did not belong to masonry at all for any other reason except for their wives to be able to attend an organization. I knew one man that his wife was in the Eastern Star, very active, and when she passed away, he withdrew from masonry. Um, Frank Randall, hell, he was a Mason for 30 years and never attended lodge, just the White Shrine of Jerusalem and the Eastern Star, whatever his wife wanted to attend. And she's a wonderful woman, and I'm not bad mouthing the practice. I'm just saying it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And you know me, dude. There's nobody that talks about the crazy shit I do,
No.
around lodge, But see, I've got to the point I don't care. There's nothing they can take from me, and there really ain't nothing they can give me. You know, I told the Secretary of the Scottish Rite there wasn't a white hat on the North American continent that had any damn thing I needed or wanted.
Yeah.
It's just not there. I met these guys. That's why this conspiracy thing to me is kind of laughable, but at the same time, that's where I cut my teeth on masonry.
Yeah.
Because there was no internet. And I don't mean it was hard to find shit on the internet. I mean, there was no fucking internet.
Yeah.
If there was a database anywhere, it was on a CD-ROM that you shoved in your thing and then downloaded on your computer. And your computer usually wasn't large enough. You had to actually have the CD-ROM in the drive when you were using it. And you're talking about having encyclopedias and dictionaries and stuff. And so I was made a Mason, and within about 3 months, this guy catches me at the gun range and tells me that I'm part of the Illuminati and the New World Order, and that they're going to ask me to piss on a cross. And I'm like 23, and I don't know what the hell's going on. So, and I'm up at Carter's country, up at Treshwig, and just me and him. And he said his name was Nicholas Rolas, and he was a ex-Romanian paratrooper, and he was 51 years old, and I was 23 at the time. And so it scared the piss out of me what it did. And so I went back to the lodge and asked those guys, all those racist dudes sitting around playing dominoes and smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, and asked them about this crap, and they just grinned at me. They didn't know. They didn't have a clue about any of that crap. And so I started studying this guy, and if you ever wanted to study a conspiracy theorist, he's the godfather of them all, dude. William Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
William Milton Cooper. The reason I followed him, and I say followed him, I kept up with his stories and his research and his bullshit, was because no matter what he believed, he died shooting it out with deputy sheriffs in New Mexico over what he believed. So whether or not it was true or not, he believed the fuck out of it.
Yeah. There's always something when somebody believes the fuck out of something. You got to look into that.
The problem he had was this. He summed it up in one statement. I don't listen to anybody. I do all my own research, and I don't take any advice from anyone.
Oh.
So that right there shows you how fucked up he was.
Yeah.
And so, but if you want to get into his head, he wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse.
Yep.
Out of Revelations. And you can get it on CD drive on eBay. And but what I did was I would listen to his radio show on shortwave radio at 10:30 at night in the garage, and my ex-wife would be like freaking out because it was so. He was scary. He was like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a knockoff of him. Alex Jones is him without as much energy and without the aliens.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, William Cooper was off the charts, dude. Well, the Hour of the Time was the show he had. And it would start out going, "Wake up, people, it is the hour of the time." And there'd be like jackboots and dogs barking and children screaming and sirens going off and all this horrible shit, man. And it's like, "Wake up, people." And so what I did there that really opened my mind a lot was I listened to 43 hours of the Mystery of Babylon series, to where he took the mystery religions of Babylon and gave all the research that he had at that time. And there were a lot of books that he would quote out of that I had never heard of or seen. And most of them were from Manly P. Hall.
Ah.
And he stayed away from the secret teachings of all ages. But then he would, in his book, quote Secret Destiny of America, and then on the radio show later on say that it was a bunch of esoteric gobbledygook, and it is. It's a bunch of stories about stuff that I wish was true, but it's not.
Yeah. Just hopes.
I still believe Columbus was Greek, but I mean that's beside the point.
Oh man, that's funny. And then so like,
well, I have a book called.
You have a book called
No,
what?
I was just gonna say I have a book called Christopher Columbus, Byzantine Prince. That's based on the theory that he was a Greek, and if you talk to any Greek person, they will tell you that Columbus was Greek and that he was in no way, shape, or form Italian, and that he was from the island of Chios off the coast of Turkey. It's a very good argument the guy made, but bizarre. So anyway, ask me another question. I'll ramble on about some other bullshit.
All right. So, how do you? Because I know you live a pretty simple life, right? Like, and I think that's the goal for most of us on here. Like, for us, the search for spiritual knowledge and attainment is probably of the most high, because in this world, especially my generation, we grew up in a fucked up ass world. Like, we have the internet at the age of like 13, 14. We can look up whatever we want. Anytime somebody asks us a question, we can go research it. And we're just automatically knowing that the world's like a piece of shit. And we're like looking for different answers, majority of us. So like, how did Masonry like transform you? How did Masonry shift your trajectory into the life you have now? Because I mean, now you're just a creator, you take care of your family, like you kind of just have everything mapped out. So how did you what transformed you? How did Masonry or any of this knowledge like shift you?
Well, lots of times you're just forced into it, and you have to adapt. What Masonry did for me first of all was when my dad died, it was there for me with other men to provide a stabilized rite of passage instead of just being tossed into. I remember when my dad died, I watched him die through the Venetian blinds in a hospital thing, and I remember the first words out of my mouth was, "I'm not ready for this." Well, the truth of it is, you ain't never ready for any fucking thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for my ex-wife to get pregnant with my daughter. I wasn't ready to have my daughter. I wasn't ready to get paralyzed. I wasn't ready for my current wife to go into a coma. I wasn't ready for my current wife to get paralyzed. I wasn't ready for my business to fucking fold up. That I was selling about $5 million a year. The funny thing about all that is, with 9 employees and selling about $5 million a year, the first year it all went to hell. I still made about as much money taking on just myself. No employees at all.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the thing is that a simple life, I guess, like you call it, is easy for me because I stopped a long time ago trying to impress anybody about the way I lived or anything else. Does it embarrass me sometimes that I'm a white trash motherfucker? Yeah, But the thing is that I didn't have any siblings. The only sibling I have is mentally handicapped. And he was taken out of the womb too early and just brain damaged at birth. Yeah, which is not a bad thing. He might have been killed, but being my brother, he probably would have got shot by me or strung out on dope and died or something. So you never know. You don't second guess shit like that, and you don't know what his karma is that he's working through.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I guess the other thing Masonry taught me is that I started looking. I had this question in my mind. I remember when I went to the Scottish Rite, and the 20th degree, they talk about a lot of the damn. Speaking of this, to me, the secrets of Masonry fall only under our modes of recognition and our passwords, grips, things like that. And I don't like spilling the beans on everything, but it's not because I think it's some drastic secret that needs to be kept. I don't mind telling you a little tidbit here and there about a degree in the Scottish Rite. I don't feel like I'm breaking my obligation at all. See, my deal is that all this shit's been published.
Yeah.
Okay. I've told you, I've made an obligation that I'm not going to tell. Let's say a woman. We've all sworn we're not going to give a woman the secrets of a master mason. Sorry, ladies, it's just something we had to do. So we swear we're never going to give these ladies these secrets. Now, in the commandery, the Christian order, and in the York Rite, these guys, there is no such thing as esoteric knowledge, okay? Nothing outside of the Bible exists. That's the devil. So everything inside the Bible is God, and everything outside it doesn't exist. So there is no esoteric knowledge. So they focus on the fraternal side of things. And when they talk about their esoteric work, they're talking about the catechism that we have to learn.
Yeah.
Okay? Or the floor work. That's what they're talking about when they're talking about their esoteric work. So they don't mind, since it's in the York Rite written down, and in the commandery written down, they don't mind handing their wife that book to hold it on them while they study their degree work.
Yeah.
Because it's written down, they say. Because it's written down, fuck it, it's written down. Okay, well now, put yourself in this situation. You've sworn you're not going to give anybody the secrets of a master mason. One of these things is a lady, okay? And I take you in a room full of women that I promise you know all the secrets of a master mason, all the grips and words of all 3 degrees and how to get in and out of lodge and everything. And I've got grandmasters sitting there verifying for me, yes, Cal, they all know these secrets. Now, we want you to tell it to them. Is it okay for you to violate your obligation at that point? They all already know it. So what the fuck would it hurt, right?
Yeah.
Except that it's your damn obligation. You're God.
Yep.
And that's why they say atheists can't be Masons. It's because it's, you have to have that to make it binding. You have to have a God to obligate yourself to, or at least some concept, whatever.
Yeah.
My higher self, my whatever, monkey in the closet, whatever the hell you want to have. And so it's kind of like AA in that respect.
Yeah.
But your higher power can be that doorknob. But the thing that it got me with was the so I don't mind telling you a little thing here and there about stories that are contained in the Scottish Rite. And the first thing I can tell you about the Scottish Rite is just forget Morals and Dogma altogether.
Oh,
Nobody
really?
I know has really ever read Morals and Dogma. No. If you want to play with Morals and Dogma, get the new annotated version that Art de Hoyos just annotated the whole thing, and then it may be worthy of looking at as a scholarly book. But on its whole, it's a historical document. It's like having a copy of the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you look at the context in which he wrote it, it wasn't telling people this is what Masons feel or think. He was saying this is all the knowledge that I have ever heard of pertaining to God from the time began till now. And this is all I know. And he compiled it in a book. And when he did that shit, and when he was commander of the Scottish Rite of North America, we think, oh man, he was the sovereign grand commander of the Scottish Rite. Wow, that sounds like a big deal. Today it is. Back then there wasn't but 1,000 Scottish Rite Masons in the whole country.
I see.
And when he wrote Morals and Dogma, it was meant to just go to them. And he's kind of an enigma in himself because he hated black people, but he venerated the American Indian. And he had, and so that always struck me strange, And so when you go comparing yourself to other people, it's really hard to do across space and time.
Yeah.
Because it disappointed me when he's such a racist bastard, but then at the same time venerated the American Indian.
Yeah.
And it's context, but the things that he wrote about at that time, he was really one of the only educated Americans. There was really no other people running around in the 1850s that knew the things he knew. He taught himself Sanskrit. He taught himself Hebrew. He translated a lot of the Vedas and stuff that people don't even give him credit for because he was a Mason. It gets tossed in the trash like he belonged to some sort of kooky group. I guess I was going to say voodoo, but hell, I don't think voodoo's any kookier than fucking Masonry. So. But the thing that it gave me mostly was, and I'll go back to this, is in the 20th degree it talks about the ancient teachers, and one of them is Zoroaster. And, he has 2 names, Zoroaster and Zarathustra. Well, I'd never heard either one of these things. And I'm sitting in the Scottish Rite down when it used to be at the big building on Brompton, and I come out of that degree, and I walk across this giant foyer and there are foyer, and there's this library. And when I get to it, there's this old white-haired dude standing in front of the library, and I say, "Hey, excuse me, sir, can you tell me what a Zarathustra is?" And the guy just started laughing at me, and I thought for sure he knew what the fuck it was, but I knew now I know he didn't have a clue, what a Zarathustra was, and so so I always had those words that grabbed me, like that grabbed me a lot, but what it gave me was this. At that time, I thought this is the thing I had in my head for my quest. I want to find the truest religion. I want to find the oldest, truest religion that's ever been. And throughout my studies, relatively quickly, I learned that they were all good. There was never. I can't tell you that one religion's bad, and I can't tell you that all religions are equal.
Yeah.
To do either is just as bad. Is just as wrong. I can't tell you anything about religion, and so that's why Masonry steers away from it. And any Masons that just don't understand the concept.
Yeah, and you see that a lot whenever you go into a Masonic lodge. The different levels of Masonry. You have the devout Christians that, they've always been that way. That's just how they are. But then when you go to the Jacques de Molay, you've got like Muslims, Jews. You've got every religion you can think of in there.
We still had a guy. Joseph Taylor.
No, I don't know.
Joseph was one of the first black Master Masons in Jacques de Molay, and he's real heavy in the York Rite. He's Christian. The other day he was there and he said a prayer, and he closed it in Jesus' name. I think he did it unconsciously, just kind of out of habit.
Yeah.
But lots of guys do it and don't have any problem doing it.
Yeah.
Because when they hear something like all religions are good, there's this filter they have that says all Christian religions are good.
Yeah.
They don't hear it the way we hear it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense. I like what Terence McKenna used to say. He used to say that he talked about the Buddhists, the Hindus, and he said basically they're all full of shit. They're all philosophical shell games, and you don't want to get stuck at any one individually. And he's like, you really don't want to get boxed into any of these because they're all kind of a shell game. So it's like you're going through the labyrinth, you're learning from one, and then you're kind of maneuvering, taking what you like, moving to another, seeing how they all fit with each other. And I think that's been a key for me, is just not taking on one over another and not letting my prejudices get in the way of that.
Well, Ryan says he likes Pike books and says it has a lot of decent info in it. Yeah, it does. I'm not saying that it's not a good book. I have a real nice copy that I'm really fond of, but the point I guess I was trying to make is it's not representative of any portion of Freemasonry that exists today. It doesn't say this is what they believe. This is what they believe. It's not. None of the degrees in the Scottish Rite are still that way, and they've been changed at least twice since then. I really love Pike's book, The Magnum Opus. If you really want to see some beautiful degrees and lectures and shit that make a lot more sense, the Magnum Opus is my favorite book. When we do the Scottish Rite Education program, we all show up with different books. Nobody really ever shows up with Morals and Dogma, but they'll have Order Ob Cow, and they'll have the Franken Rituals, or the Franken Manuscript, and and the one I just mentioned, Magnum Opus, is my favorite. And then I also have the regular ritual along with it. But yeah, that's why I'm anxious to look at De Hoyo's new annotated version of Morals and Dogma. Is because with it being annotated by a man that's more modern in his speak, and that's another thing that I believe about Masonry, and I think I can find a lot of people to back me up on it, is that in the Scottish Rite, all the degrees are different than they are anywhere else in any other Masonic body. Because in that order, they're meant to be looked at, not participated in.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so the York Rite wanted to copy our model and say, oh, we're going to have a festival like you guys have reunions. We're going to do all our degrees in one day too, and then just sit and watch. No, that doesn't work for the York Rite. It does. I mean, they get people in, but it doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if you watch the York Rite in that fashion, it's too repetitive, and it's it's an extrapolation of the Solomonic rituals and stuff, into more Hebrew, Persian type of things. Nothing really more than that. And they're meant to be initiated onto a person. Even if you do believe there's something transmitted by initiation, then yes, in those degrees, yes. But in the Scottish Rite, no. Pike didn't like theater because theater was candles and stuff. If he had electricity, I think he'd wanted it on DVD.
Oh.
Which it'll probably end up being pretty soon, because Scottish Rite Valleys around the country are dying off. And so they have to come all together in Georgia to Atlanta to do a reunion. In Oklahoma, they all have to get together in Guthrie to do a reunion. In Arkansas, I think they all have to get in one town to do a reunion. What we just did in Houston takes their whole fucking state.
Damn.
And yeah. In California, as much as people are active as belonging, they're not active in putting stuff on like that. So even in California, they have a lot of stuff like that. That eventually, yeah, from what I hear, we will be passing out DVDs for these degrees.
Damn.
Yeah, but they so they're stage plays. And now Manly P. Hall says that when Pike conferred the 33rd degree, he would get the candidate on a buckboard and ride out into the woods with a picnic dinner and a few bottles of wine. And he said by the time all the food was consumed and all the wine had been drunk, the degree had been conferred. And if you read Magnum Opus, you'll see what that's about, because every degree is a lecture. Because he didn't want to see it performed as a stage play, because it sucked. Candles and all dudes in sackcloth or whatever,
Yeah.
Like I said, but nowadays I think he would just shit himself with pride to have it done like we're doing it in Houston.
Yeah.
On that type of schedule. Hey man, I gotta take a leak. I'll be back in a second.
All right. What up, guys? Who's still on? Give me a like and a thumbs up if you're still on watching right now. You guys on? Did you guys vacate? Oh, what up? Oh, they are? Oh. Oh, you're naked right now. You can't say hi. You're naked right now. All right. Yeah, Lee's a trip, man. I love that dude, man. Love Lee. He's got a lot of good stuff, man. Just in the brief time I've met him and hung out with him, he has definitely helped me out in many ways just by being around him, man. Because being around a guy like that that's very balanced is nice to have. But whenever I joined Masonry, because I was like really into that conspiracy stuff, and I remember looking at the top and like, all right, so the people who run the world, right? They must understand all these symbols and stuff. So that's where the power is. So I need to figure out how I can get into that. I was like, because I need to find out where this power is coming from. Because if I'm just going to be scared of it, I'm just telling my story of like what got me into Masonry. But so I wanted to find where the power was. So I started studying these conspiracies and stuff, and I saw the satanic Masonry stuff. And hey, I'm on the phone. Give me 1 second. I remember studying all this Masonry conspiracy stuff, and it's all the devil. I remember watching all these documentaries. They got tons of documentaries on there about the devil and Masonry, and I remember thinking there's just this missing piece. I was like, there's something missing. I was like, I just feel like this is bullshit, because I met Masons before, and I know they don't worship the devil. I was like, what the fuck? They seem like good guys. So eventually I got to a point in my studies where I'm like, the only way I'm gonna learn this shit is if I go and get initiated. That's it. That was because I'm not going to go get it from somebody. I'm not going to go read no book, because, I mean, even though everything's published, there's still so much in the rituals and stuff that you'll never learn unless you're part of it. And when I joined it, I kind of had an angst joining it in the beginning, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if there was going to be like a donkey. I didn't know if there was going to be like a donkey there. I didn't know if there was going to be like, a bunch of crazy people ready to jump me. But dude, it's been the most beautiful experience. Ever since I joined, everybody I've met in Masonry has helped me so much in my development, spiritually, mentally, physically. Everybody's just looking out for each other. And there's nothing nefarious about it. There's nothing, evil or satanic, and everything I learned from it just brought me closer to myself, if that makes sense. But it's been an incredible experience.
Well, yeah, taking things when they get taken out of context, like you walk in a room and see some guy drinking out of a skull. That's all you see. Then what exactly are you looking at? You don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's been taken out of context. And so, and that was in the book, The Lost Symbol. Here's one. Check this out. In early Christian Rome, there was the Christians would meet at night, and they would greet each other with a kiss on the mouth. They would call each other brother and sister, and they were heard to speak of eating the body and drinking the blood of the child of God. So the Romans heard these things, and what they came up with was that they were cannibalizing young children and having incestuous orgies at night. So taking things out of context can be, really worse than dangerous. It can actually produce things and make things happen that don't exist. I'm going to try to sum this part of me. I'm trying not to ramble on this part, but I do want to, since you're talking about the conspiracy theories and the devil and all that crap, the reason I brought the context issue up was that, yeah, there used to be a degree that you came out of the bandstand and stepped on a crucifix and went back to the stands. And that was because it wasn't anti-God, it was anti-Catholic. And in 2004, the rituals were rewritten to be a lot less anti-Catholic because of the Templar origins. The Templars owed everything they had. They were only answerable to the Pope, and then the Pope betrayed them. So the one true God that they thought would hold up at their end of the bargain didn't, and so I think that's where a lot of the ecumenical ideas in Masonry come from, is accepting other religions without, hating them, because who knows? The one we had wasn't all that great, when you look at it from a Templar's perspective, Now, one thing I'd like to say about the conspiracy theories, and I'll try to round this up, not take the long way around the barn, but the main thing you notice about the things they say about Masonry is that we want to set up like a type of utopian government to where everybody is in a communist rule, and I think William Cooper even says, Freemasonry wants to set up a worldwide brotherhood of men that can worship across all kinds of religious lines and this, that, and the other together. He said, in other words, Masonry wants to destroy all Christian, Jews, and Muslims from the earth. And I'm like, that's where I learned that it's kind of like ancient aliens. Their research might be just fucking radical, but their assumptions sometimes have a few things missing in between, where they jumped and where they landed,
Yeah.
And so what I learned about Masonry in my life, in my opinion, is that we're here. It doesn't have anything to do with salvation. It has nothing to do with the afterlife. We mention it periodically. The word salvation only appears one time in our ritual, and in Blue Lodge ritual, and I think that's because it's about how you act while you're here.
Yeah.
Do you play well with others? Do you uphold that what Jesus said was the greatest commandment was love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I've had to throw that in some people's faces at funerals that I've done where they were too Christian and I was too Mason. And they wanted to sit there and call me a devil worshiper. And how could their loved one be a part of this devilish bunch of bullshit? And so I would bring this up and talk to them about it. That, yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with this salvation. It has to do, does he uphold that commandment? Is he able to sit at the dinner table with people that have different religions and talk? That's where peace comes from. That's where that kind of shit starts. So you take that and you say, okay, it's a utopian ideal. And it's based on building a house, building a building. In the Kabbalah, it's called the everlasting house of God. Okay, and you're building the everlasting house of God. It's also talked about in the cult of the Dionysian artificers. And so they talk about the stones, even the stones that the evildoers have to hone, still have to go in the building to make the building complete. And and so we talk about the everlasting house of God. I talk about it in my book a little bit, in the Kabbalah and the house of the threshing floor of the Jebusites. Well, if you take that and you put it in an American perspective, you come up with people like Hitler and Pol Pot, Castro, Stalin, and Pol Pot's a good example because not many people know who he was, but he was the guy in Laos and maybe Cambodia that marched in and said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to march everybody out of the cities, you millions, a bunch of people that are lawyers and doctors and teachers and all this other shit. We're going to march you out of the city into the fields, and you're going to learn how to farm rice. And if you can't farm rice, we're going to shoot you in your motherfucking head. And guess what? If you can read and you can remember the history of Laos, we're going to shoot you in your fucking head too. Oh, and you know what? Screw that. If you got glasses, we're going to shoot you in your damn head because we don't want anybody around that can remember the way Laos was. In fact, in France, after the French Revolution, the people started the calendar over. They started the calendar over at year 1. And they said that we're going to forget the old France. We're going to, if you remember, they ended up being them again not too long. They became what they hated, but they said, we're going to wipe out the old France. We're going to wipe out the old monarchy. We're going to start the calendar over at year 1. And so Pol Pot, has a lot of French influence in Southeast Asia. And he says, well, I can do you one better. We're going to call mine year 0. And so his utopian scheme was called year 0. And to do this, he erased the history of Laos. And he took these lawyers and teachers and everybody that could read or remember, any intellectual, anybody that could read or remember the history of Laos, and he killed them. And he turned them into farmers. And still today, if you go look at that country, they're living about, seems like 1,000 years behind us in technology.
Damn.
And so you take that type of idea of utopia, and then you take the word utopia, and you take the idea of it that's exhibited through Masonry, and people come up with this idea of force. And that's where Masonry understands, I believe, that you cannot force brotherhood onto people. I can't